All right, so this is a video just to introduce 11.2, which is on area and perimeter. So we're going to talk about what area and perimeter mean, and then we'll start by finding the area perimeter of using some non-traditional, non-standard area units, and then we'll do a rectangle. So what does area mean? So basically, area is the amount of space that covers a surface. So it's a two-dimensional measurement, and anytime we're measuring things in 2D, then our units are going to be, squared. So for example, 2D units might be like meters squared or feet squared, or square feet would be another way to say it, or square inches or square centimeters, anything that measures one dimension but just squared. So for example, if I said to you, what's the square footage of, your family room, then you would think of what a square foot looks like. So a square foot is just a square that's 1 foot by 1 foot. And if you think of what maybe your living room looks like, so here's your living room, then you would figure out, well, how many of those square feet does it take to fill up your whole floor? And that would be how many square feet your living room would be. Versus perimeter would be the distance around something. So perimeter is a one-dimensional unit. So we measure perimeter in units like meters or feet or inches or centimeters. So if you wanted to know the perimeter around your living room, and maybe you're wanting to know the perimeter because maybe you're putting some molding around the floor, some wood molding, you would measure that in just linear units like feet or meters or inches or centimeters. So just like, when we talked about in the measurement video for 11.1, we start teaching kids how to measure using non-standard units. So when we teach them how to find the area of something, we also use, non-standard area units. So for example, like if you wanted to find the area of this shaded region that's shaded in yellow, so this region right here, if you were going to ask a student to find the area of this, one way is you could give them some sort of shape. So we'll start here. So we're going to do the square first. Okay, and we're going to ask ourselves, how many squares are there in this shape? Well, it's pretty easy to see, okay, we've got one square here, so there's one, and there's two. Now the rest of the shape, you've got some triangles, so you kind of got to get creative and say, well, I guess we could look at this square as two triangles. So one square equals two triangles. Okay, so if we've got this one plus this one is going to be a square, and we've got a square here and a square here that we already identified, and then these two are also going to be a square. So total we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 squares. So if we're measuring with a square, so we would say there are 4 of these units inside the figure. Now if you're doing the triangle, I'm going to erase this. The triangle is actually probably maybe a little bit simpler. You're looking at the same figure, and we're going to ask ourselves, well, how many of those triangles fill up the figure? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 of these units. So it depends what we're measuring in there. But feel free to get creative and break it up. So if we're looking at standard units of area, like inches or feet, for instance, let's talk about, we mentioned this, or I mentioned this in 11.1 in the first video, but let's talk about it again. So if you have a square that's 1 inch by 1 inch, then you would say that this square is 1 square inch. Okay, so let me just write that there. So the area of the square is 1 square inch. Example 2 asks, how many square inches equal 1 square foot? So how many square inches equals 1 square foot? Well, let's draw a picture of what a square foot would look like. So if we imagine that this is a square foot, so it's 1 foot by 1 foot. Okay, we know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot, so 1 foot is the same thing as 12 inches. This is the same as 12 inches. If it's 12 inches in one direction and 12 inches in the other, you could think of this like this. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 square inches in one direction. Okay, pretend those are squares, and 12 in the other. And if you filled out this entire square, it'd be 12 by 12 or 144 square inches. So that's the visual. And then you can also just take the conversion. So what I mean by conversion is this: 12 inches equals 1 foot. And you could square both sides. So that's the algebraic way of doing it. So 1 foot squared is 1 square foot. And 12 times 12 is 144. And then square inches. So you can also do it that way. Now for number 2, we want to know how many square feet equals 1 square yard. So again, you could draw a picture. So you could draw a square yard. So 1 yard and 1 yard. And this is 1 square yard. Okay. And then find your feet to yard conversion. So there are 3 feet in 1 yard. So this is 3 feet in one direction and 3 feet in the other. So that's like, if we drew a picture, it would look like this. So 3 square feet in one direction, 3 square feet in the other. And if you filled it all in, you imagine that those are all the same size, you would get 9 square feet. Alternatively, you could square both sides of the conversion here. So 1 squared is 1 squared yard, and then 3 squared would give you the 9. So that's another way to do it. So there are 9 square feet in 1 square yard.